When the thought of sending thousands of salesy emails or pitch slapping every new contact on LinkedIn is a serious turnoff, and you want to book meetings with corporate leaders from simple conversations and messages, then this training is for you. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. In fact, it's two elephants, so it's pretty crowded. The first elephant is that outrage, whether that's by email, on LinkedIn, at events, is a fundamental part of building a corporate client business. Unlike in the online world, you will need to go to clients in some form to get their attention, at least until you've been some incredible reputation and, an international renowned experts. But the problem is, and this is the other elephant, most of what you have learned about corporate outreach is not very effective. Industry statistics show that only 3 to 5% of all outreach gets a positive response, aka the person is willing to talk to you. And of that, less than 10% turn into client. That means of every 1,000 messages that you send, you might sign one contract, and even that's a bit questionable. But contrary to the myth, those results aren't so low because the market is so saturated or leaders are so hard to get. The real reason is that most coaches and consultants use language and tactics that actually repel corporate clients. So in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to show you the 5 mistakes that instantly make corporate decision makers hit the delete on your outreach. And then I'm going to give you a completely different approach, one that has them actually wanting to talk to you. Sounds good? Right. Excellent. Before we dive in, very quickly, hello. If we haven't met before, I am Miriam Gilbert, founder of the Impactfulness Lab, and I'm a former CFO of a multi-billion organization. I've also been a Big Four consultant, and now I am an independent corporate consultant myself. So I have sat on all sides of the table and have been on all sides of the decision-making process. I have now been helping over 500 coaches, trainers, experts, speakers, people like you who want to sign more premium corporate clients without spending all their time pitch slapping on LinkedIn. And I have made it my mission to make corporate selling straightforward. And I am here to share with you all the insights that come from my 12 plus years of corporate selling experience. All right, let's dive into the stuff that's killing your credibility before you even get started. If you're doing any of the 5 things that I'm going to share, you're actively making yourself forgettable and ignorable, which is not what we want, right? So mistake number 1, it's the tell me about your business meeting request. And what that sounds like in an email, you might say, talk about your topic, XXX is so important to businesses right now. And then you ask, can we grab 30 minutes so I can learn about your challenges and priorities in the XXX area? And that backfires because you're basically asking them to give you free information about their business so that you can figure out how to sell to them. The real problem is here that they don't know you. Why would they share confidential information about what's not working in the organization with a complete stranger? Think about it. Would you sit down with somebody you've never met and spill all the problems happening inside your business? Of course not. And neither will they. Mistake number 2 is asking for help. Now, this is a super popular one that I see being taught in many places. The justification is that humans are naturally helpful and respond to small requests. So you send a contact a message saying, who's the best person at your company to talk about X? But there are actually 3 reasons why this doesn't work. See, most people might be inclined to help somebody if approached on the street with a really tiny request, like asking directions to the station. But asking who is the right person is not a small request, because you're asking them for permission to pitch to that person they send you to. And then they will have to deal with that person asking, why did you point this coach my way? Plus, this is on top of the fact that they might not even know. So there would be work involved on their part to figure out where to point you. In large organizations, people really don't often know. But finally, even if they tell you who to go to, there's no guarantee, there's no likelihood that this person will be any more interested in your offer. So what you're doing with asking for help is you're dumping your work onto somebody who's already drowning in meetings and emails, has no reason to do you a favor, but has their reputation to risk. And that is why this approach almost never works in large organizations. Mistake number 3 is assuming they need you, aka you're playing the knight in shining armor. What that sounds like is, I help leaders like you overcome X challenge. I'd love to show you how we can transform your team's performance, etc., etc. And here's the thing that nobody tells you about corporate systems. They are not designed for leaders to admit that they need outside help. When you position yourself as the hero, swooping in to save the day, you are inadvertently signaling that you think they are failing at the job, that they can't figure this out themselves. And for corporate leaders, they've built their entire careers on being the person who has the answer. Their credibility, their bonus, their next promotion, they're all tied to being seen as capable. So when you show up assuming that they have a problem they can't solve, you're not being helpful. You are threatening their professional identity. Again, imagine somebody you never met came up to you and tell you that, oh, you clearly need help with your leadership style or your business development. Or even if it's true, or especially if it's true, your first reaction isn't gratitude, probably defensiveness. Now, mistake number 4 is about the free session. That's where you offer them some free complimentary strategy session or say, oh, I can run a free assessment for you. Now, this works really well in the online world where you are selling coaching packages to solopreneurs, because for them, the buying friction is trust, always the case, and money. Whereas for corporate, the buying friction is actually trust, time, and reputational risk. Free is never free in corporates because they have logistics to deal with, meeting rooms to book, people to get into the rooms. The person who said yes will put their personal reputation online. Because if you bomb, they will lose face with their peers, their bosses, the organization. And finally, to make the session even impactful, they would need to share some inside information. Again, that's something they will see as risky. And that's the very last point. If you're telling them that you can solve a big problem, like a multi-million-dollar problem in 60 minutes, they just are not going to believe that what you offer is super valuable. Now, of course, there are ways to create tasters of your work. And in fact, that can be highly successful when done right. We actually do this all the time in the way we attract clients. And that is something that I teach my clients in the paid programs. But for today, suffice to say that free is never such a great convincer in the online world. Mistake number 5 is telling them what they're doing wrong. Oh, your leadership pipeline probably has significant gaps that costing you talent. You people are burned out, and that's what's costing you. This approach assumes that you know more about their organization from a LinkedIn scroll than they do from living inside it every day. And nothing, really nothing, kills trust faster than uninvited criticism from a stranger. Because here's what's happening when you do that. You're projecting problems onto them based on generic industry patterns. But they don't feel generic. They are a specific organization with a specific context, specific constraints, and specific reasons why things look the way they do look from the inside. So again, just put yourself in their shoes. If you were at a conference and somebody you never spoken to came up to you and tell you that, oh, your position is way off, your body language is wrong, I can see there's really 3 problems with how you are talking about your business, would you immediately feel you want to book a meeting with that person? Or would you all of a sudden remember that you need to be literally anywhere else, right? You think most people don't enjoy unsolicited feedback. But from a corporate leader, especially they don't like unsolicited feedback from people they haven't even earned the right to give it yet. But here is the good news. What actually works in your outreach is way simpler. All that awkward stuff, all those strategies. You don't need fancy funnels. You don't need month of nurturing. You just need messaging that positions you as the obvious choice before they even talk to you. And I want to share with you the 3A framework that I teach to my VIP clients. The first A is appeal to their logic. You see, corporate leaders have to justify decisions to boards, their bosses, their peers. So they need to point to business outcomes, not use coaching speak. So what they will want to talk about is how your methodology sees 40% faster decision making at senior level because cross-functional collaboration stops being a battleground instead of I help leaders develop emotional intelligence. So the appeal to logic, you connect your work directly to their strategic goals. You can use research, you can use numbers, give them something that they can put into a business. The second A is appeal to the emotion. I sometimes call it the peeling the onion. And this is what not many people do. Not many coaches do this because many coaches stay at the surface level of problems like team conflict, engagement, change resistance. But that's not how decision makers feel those things. You see, they feel them at a symptom level. They feel meetings that should have taken 30 minutes dragging into 2 hours because nobody will make a call, or they feel the email thread with 47 replies that still hasn't reached a decision. They feel walking past their best performer's desk and noticing that they've gone quiet or gone completely. So when you can describe the daily visceral reality of what they're experiencing, not the textbook problem, but the lived experience, then you prove that you actually understand the world. And that's when they in. And the third A is appeal to the mission. This is a very nuanced one because this is what separates vendors from trusted advisors. Why do you care? Not why you started your business, not your credentials, or why this work matters to your bank account. This is where you share authentically and without making it about you why you truly, utterly care, why you need to do this work. And that way you signal something really important. You're not just here for the invoice, you're driven by something bigger than the transaction. And that immediately creates a completely different kind of relationship, even before you met. So here's the bottom line. You don't need to send thousands of cold emails. You don't need to nurture people for month on end, hoping they eventually reply. You need messaging that makes you impossible to ignore, that positions you as the authority before you even get into the call. And that starts with the 3 messaging layers we just talked about. Now, here's what I want you to do next. Comment meeting below, and I'll send you how to access the full breakdown of the exact strategy that I used to book a global financial service client from a cold connection. This is where I share how to put the theory into practice. Inside Meeting Magnet 2.0, I break down what to say and how to say it across every client attraction touchpoint, your DMs, outreach, networking conversations, content, speaking, everything. And this is the same strategy my clients use to sell their largest coaching packages to corporates after just 2 meetings and secure their first 5-figure client in just 3 calls. So when you join right now, you also get a full week of Telegram coaching, my eyes on your messaging, my strategies in your business. So make sure you comment meeting for instant access at 50% off before the price goes back up to AA. And for those of you who want to implement these strategies and book 3 times more corporate clients in the next 90 days, there's someone in their corner the whole way. DM VIP, and we can talk about my one-on-one stages. I can't wait to be celebrating your successes. leave a comment on what you're going to implement first. And make sure if you want to jump into those programs, you drop a comment with meeting or you DM me VIP. We can talk. I can't wait to hear how this is going to change everything in your corporate client business. I'll see you in all the places.